Mixing a couple of the stamp sets that come in the new Spring Parade Stamp TV kit allows you to create even more beautiful floral backgrounds. Today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you how to mix your own hand-stamped background paper with printed paper to make a blossoming birthday card. Let me show you the tools and products you need to make this project. First, you're going to need some stamps. And I'm using a couple of the stamps from the Blossom stamp set from the Spring Parade Stamp TV kit. Here, this particular flower is from that set, and also this greeting which says, "Wishing you the happiest of birthdays." Then I'm also using a couple of stamps from the Dreams Take Flight stamp set, including this smaller little dragonfly and this longer stemmed floral. You're going to need some ink pads, and I'm using 3 of the Gina Designs ink pads, including our Fresh Asparagus, the Red Hot, and the Ocean Mist. Then I have a little bit of the turquoise ribbon that comes inside the Spring Parade Stamp TV kit. I have some red liquid pearls, some scissors for cutting my ribbon, and some adhesive, some 1/4-inch pop dots for popping up my focal image piece, and then I have some cardstock. And the cardstock that I have here is the Gina Designs white cardstock, some of our black onyx. I made a turquoise sea card base, and then I have a little strip of pattern paper from the Spring Parade pattern paper pack. Now, to stamp your greeting, you're also going to need a black ink pad, and for that I'm going to use the Memento Tuxedo Black. So to begin, I'm going to use this longer stemmed floral stamp and some Ocean Mist ink, along with a little panel of white cardstock to begin to create my background paper. Now, I'm going to kind of make long stripy flowers going across the back, and then I'm going to fill the whole thing in with some other floral images and that little dragonfly. So I'm going to start right about here, and I want to stamp off the piece of paper so that it appears as though this piece was cut out of a huge piece of pattern paper. And I'm going to turn the stamp as I go and do one just about there, like that. Then I'm going to continue to kind of flip-flop this stamp in different directions to fill in as I see areas that need to be filled in. Now here, I'm going to fill this one in. Maybe I'll do it this way. And that turns it a little bit. Stamp this one here. And remember, there are more stamps that are going to go over this pattern. So if you have a few little shallow spots, that's just fine. Don't worry about that. Let's put one here. And then we'll come back up right here, like that. And we'll fill in here. It's kind of fun. It's like a puzzle. You just want to find little areas that need images. Now, don't forget, on your corners you can stamp off a little bit, like that. Fill in there. And let's turn this one around. Get a little stem there, maybe a stem right there. Okay. So now I have, that's a really lovely little pattern just like it is, and would be very delicate to use for any soft focal image, maybe a wedding card or something like that. But now I want to brighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to grab this spindly flower and some of the Red Hot ink, and I'm going to place these. I'm going to start in the center with one, and then kind of work my way out, evenly spreading those flowers. And now I can fill in my little corners here, my little sides. And then I'll do something on each corner. And that'll just finish that off. And again, that's very pretty just by itself with those two. But I do want to add one more color in there, and I do want to add something other than flowers. So this little dragonfly in fresh asparagus is the perfect little addition. Now, because he's a solid image, I want to make sure that I definitely turn this image to really make it different so that they're not all flying in one direction. So this one I'll turn upside down here. This one going like that. And then I can fill in wherever I need to. These images stamp so nicely, and our ink just gives such a solid, crisp look. But I love that touch of green in there. I think it really needed a little bit of green, but not leaves. I like the idea that it's not leaves, it's something a little bit different. So there we go. There is my patterned background paper that I created. Now my next step is going to be to adhere this little strip onto this piece. So I've got a black onyx strip and then this turquoise striped strip. I'm going to stick those together. And make sure I've got it lined up well here. Okay. And now I'm going to place that off to the side a little bit, like that. So I've got a thinner side showing on this side and a thicker side showing on the other side. And I'm going to adhere those together. And then I'm going to put this whole panel onto a piece of black onyx. And I've got that right here. So that will go on like that. And now I'm going to create my focal image panel. Actually, I think I'll just put this right on the card base now, since that's ready to go. I'll add that onto that. There we go. All ready for my focal image. Let's move that up just a hair. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to start my focal image. So let me just put that aside and grab this little piece of white cardstock and some of that fresh asparagus ink. I want to play off of these same colors that are in my background paper. So I'm going to ink this flower up all with fresh asparagus. Now, even though you might want to do a multicolored flower, and you certainly can, you can use markers to do that, it does look really pretty to just do a monochromatic flower and then add a few little touches to it to bring in some other colors, which I'm going to show you in just a second. So there is my little fresh asparagus flower. And then I'm going to add the greeting across the center of the flower. So I'm going to do that with some of the Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And I'm just going to test the greeting once, even though it's cut very closely. I just want to make sure that it will stamp straight, and it will. Sorry if my head got in the way there. So I'm going to stamp this right across the flower right there. There we go. Wishing you the happiest of birthdays. Now I'm going to add a little panel down here at the bottom. Just a little bit of ribbon. And I'm going to tape that onto the back using a little bit of adhesive. Let me trim that off. I'll put this one side down, and then I'm going to flip it over to straighten it out a little, because I don't want it quite that high. On my other sample, I made the whole greeting a little bit higher, and you can kind of play with that and decide what you want it to look like. So there's that little ribbon, and then I'm going to cut another piece of ribbon and tie a little bow under here. Actually, just going to put in a little knot, so it's not going to be a complete bow. And what's nice about this organdy ribbon, I love this ribbon, or this organza ribbon, is it's real easy to manipulate and get it to lay just a little bit flatter. It's not as bulky as some of the ribbons. I'll cut one there, and twist that a little bit, and cut it here. There we go. Now this whole panel is going to go on top of a little piece of black onyx. And I always like to tape over my ribbon tails just to make sure they stay securely down. So there's my focal image, and that is going to move that over. I was looking at that earlier, and that was still bugging me a little bit. Okay. And that panel is going to go right on top like that. And you'll see my sketch varies a little bit in my sample too, so you can see how if you just shift things a little bit, it can look a little bit different. So I'm going to adhere this on to the card base using 1/4 inch pop dots. And then I need to bring in one more color to my focal image. Now you can do this in a variety of ways. Some people like to use brads or eyelets, or you might have little rhinestones or other types of little jewelry style embellishments. But another fun way to embellish your flowers or any kind of card is to use liquid pearls. And liquid pearls creates a little pearl, a little lump of this thick liquid that's kind of swirly and looks like a pearl. And then you sit it out overnight to dry or for a few hours, and then it's ready to be sent to somebody. One of the things I like about liquid pearls is you can change the shape of the pearl, and I'm going to show you how I did that on my card sample. I always test it first to make sure it's going to come out of the bottle okay. And if you have liquid pearls at home and they're not forming into perfect little pearls, but they rather have a little peak on the top, the best thing to do is run them under hot water for a little bit. Just take the bottle with the cap on and run it under hot water. It softens the liquid pearls inside and allows it to set a little bit better, kind of thins it out a little bit, and you'll get more of that rounded pearl rather than a little mountain. So I'm going to just put one right here in the center of this flower, and one right here in the center of this flower. And you can see I'm pulling straight up. And when you pull straight up, then you don't get a lopsided pearl. Your pearl will actually stay very rounded. Now let me show you a side view. You can see this is already rounded there. See that? So, get rid of that. There is my finished card project. And then I want to show you something that I did on my sample that I can't really do with this one while the liquid pearls is still wet. But in my card sample here, you can see I varied the sketch a little bit. So this one, the strip is off to the left a little bit more. Once my liquid pearls dried, they can still be manipulated a little bit because they're very rubbery. So what I did was I took an acrylic block and I laid the acrylic block on top of the liquid pearls when they were all dry, and I just pressed down. And when I press down, I change that little pearl to a little flat top pearl, which is kind of nice for mailing. And sometimes they do that anyway when you mail them, but then they get a little bit lopsided. So if you do it prior to mailing them, then you've already shaped them into perfect little circles that are flat on top. So that's kind of a fun thing to try too. And it's real easy to do with an acrylic block. So that is my finished card. Try mixing other stamps from other sets you have, along with patterned papers from other collections, to create more interesting combinations as a backdrop for any focal image.